right, so we have Jack, guest, back on. Jack, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, man, good. We're gonna start this topic off by talking about the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers down 0-2 to the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals. First of all, Jack, as a fellow Panthers fan, how we feeling about the series heading back to Sunrise?
Not great. Not great. But you know what? It's 2-0. It's not 3-0. It's not over. So get the next two at home. That's basically your only chance. Hope they pull through, but they got to get two at home. They can't go down 3-1 in the finals to the Knights. They're too good of a
Yeah.
team.
But if you remember, we were down 3-1 to the Boston Bruins in the first round. We did come back.
Yeah, but you know how rare 3-1 comebacks are. I mean, to have it happen twice, you don't want to get down 3-1. You don't want to get down 3-1. 3-2, you could do 3-2 if you lose game five, win the next two, get game five. But they need to pull something. They need to pull something out in the next two games because they cannot afford to go down 3-0 or 3-1. So
Right. So my next question is, Evan knows my stance on this. So I'm gonna ask you, Jack. There's been a lot of complaints about the officials the last two games. How how do you think the officials have been the first two games?
yeah, I mean, they haven't been. I think they call things a little soft. And when you talk about hockey, one of the main things you think about in hockey is the physicality. You think about
Yeah,
how you don't like maybe don't call the little things or you look for the big hits. You don't call the little ticky tack things and have to Chuck sit out for 10 minutes. But that being said, you can't blame officiating for the Panthers' losses in the first two games. I mean, game one, I guess, was a little closer down the stretch. I mean, the Knights kind of just took over at the end. But game two, I mean, they weren't even close. I mean, to say the officiating was the issue was the Panthers were just not playing well. And you know what they say when it rains it pours. So Panthers get down early. The officiating doesn't start to help. Kind of snowballs into an avalanche. You're down 6-0. So it is what it is.
yeah. I mean, you can't blame the officiating. You're right, and we just gotta play better. But
I
I feel
agree.
like there were definitely some missed calls on Vegas, especially that altercation between Aiden Hill and Matthew Tkachuk in the Vegas net. I think,
I
that should
agree.
have been called. I
Yeah, I agree. And
think that should have
sometimes
been an easy call.
maybe they're kind of trying to give a little more calls in favor to the home team. And sometimes, they'll do, I mean, if something could go one way or the other, sometimes they'll lean the way of the home team. So maybe they'll see it back in game three or four. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Now let's talk about the Miami Heat for a second. The Miami Heat, obviously, a little bit better news. They're tied 1-1 heading back to South Florida. How do you think that series has done so far, and how do you think that series will go from here?
Yeah. So from a general media standpoint, I listen to a lot of radio and if you listen to the radio every single day and didn't know the scores or the outcomes of the games, you think the Nuggets were up 3-0 right now. I mean, people just think the Nuggets are. I get there's some powerhouse, but people act like the Nuggets weren't, underdogs against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I think the Heat have a lot better of a chance than people think, especially when they already beat the Bucks, they beat the Celtics, who have two headlining players. Granted, are not Nikola Jokic, but I mean Giannis, man. People but to start the playoffs, people said Giannis was the best player on planet Earth. So to be tied 1-1, you've got three games in Miami. You've only got two left in Denver. You got to keep that in mind. You got two left in Denver, three in Miami. If Miami just takes care of business at home, which they didn't against the Celtics, but you never know, man. And they take care of business at home, maybe catch Denver off guard with the altitude change, because they're going from playing in altitude to sea level basically. I mean,
Yeah,
Miami's basically sea level, so I think the Heat have a lot. I wouldn't say they're quite the favorite in my opinion, but I think they have a lot better of a chance than people are giving them credit for. And you know how the role players have been playing: Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, even Duncan Robinson. Man, he's learned to play off the dribble so much. He picks up his dribble, he drives to the hoop. He's not just a one-dimensional three-point shooter, which is what I love to see.
hmm
So I think the role players have even elevated their games, and it breaks my heart to say that some of them are going to get big contracts this offseason. We won't get to see them play for the Heat, but it is
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah,
So
that's what I
one,
wanted to jump in quick on too with the Heat. They spread the ball around. Like Gabe Vincent, I think led the team in points with 23 points last game.
yeah,
Like
Mhm.
they do a good job of that. And Jimmy Butler, you know, of course you got Jimmy Butler, but you got a real team element. And I think I like how they said going home. Jack said, they were huge. The Denver was a huge favorite in game two, and I didn't quite understand that. And we kind of saw why Denver was losing in the start. They came back by halftime. They made it interesting. Then the Heat took it away again. I like the spot Miami sits in. By all means, it's not over. It's going to be a hard fought series, but I do like where Miami sits. Yeah.
yeah. You know,
100%, 100%.
Bam Adebayo has been been amazing in this series so far. Jimmy Butler, obviously. You know, I just think the Heat. I think the Heat can make this one an interesting series down the stretch. But one player I wanted to touch on really quick because there's a chance he might come back in Game 3 after not playing most of the postseason is Tyler Hero. How do you think Tyler Hero slots in? Do you think he slots in as a starter? I know he won the Sixth Man of the Year award last year, coming off the bench. But do you think Eric Spoelstra will start Tyler Hero?
I would like to see Tyler Hero come off the bench because I think that theoretically, you've played very well in the playoffs so far with the
Yeah,
lineups you've put out. You saw some good things from Kevin Love in game two, not necessarily maybe shooting wise, but he adds a lot of great elements as a passer. He doesn't quite, record the stats on the stat sheet, but he's great. So I think, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, So take the same lineup you got, and if you need a jolt of energy, you need a spark, insert Tyler Hero, and he can hit some shots, man. So I think you want Tyler Hero to play. People are saying, "Oh, don't even play him." We've been playing fine as it is, but he's a good player, man. He is, and he'll hit some
yeah.
tough shots. Yeah. So I think maybe bring him off the bench game 3 and 4, and if he gives you more, then you could start him in game 5 and 6. But you got to roll with what's been working. Work it. Kevin Love really worked playing the 5, so I or the 4, I guess, but Kevin, I don't know. I think that you roll with Strus or Gabe Vincent starting over Hero, because they've been playing. Tyler Hero hasn't had game action in like what, a month or two, so you got to roll with what works.
Mhm. Yeah. So final predictions, Panther series. How do you see that one shaping out?
Uh,
Really quick, because we're
as a
running
fan,
out
I'll
of
go
time.
Panthers
Really
in
quick.
7, and as a realistic fan of hockey, I will say Knights in 5.
How about the Heat series? What do you see with that?
As a fan of the Heat, I'll go Heat in 7, and as a fan of the NBA, I'll say Heat in 7. I'll go Heat in 7. I think they have a better chance of people giving them credit for it. I think they'll play. I think they'll play as a team and win it as a team, and Jimmy Butler will finish out on top.